Hi and hello, welcome to the video. I'm gonna say this first and foremost. I am filming my wrap up halfway through June to have like the first pile done. And then at the end of June I will talk about the other books that I will be reading later this month. Just because I know that I'm gonna get overwhelmed at the end of the month. And I don't want to get overwhelmed. So I think this is gonna be a long one too. So grab a drink, grab a snack. I'm gonna be yapping about the books that I read so far up until June 15th. It's currently Monday the 15th of June. And I read so far 11 books, so I'm gonna be talking about those books and sharing my opinions, because I like yapping. I want to say I started the month with a very fantasy TBR. Most of the books I wanted to read this month were fantasies. Yay! No, I was very excited for reading fantasies. However, somewhere I got burned out from reading fantasy, so I switched over to dark romance. I needed a change of scenery. But I did start off the month with reading A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. I love this book. I had this book on my TBR since January this year. I was like, I'm gonna read it in June. I don't know why I thought I was gonna read it in June. But it seemed just like a June-ish book. So here we are, reading it. I ended up giving it 4 stars and I love it. I can't wait to read the second book. I don't know if it's gonna be a duology, trilogy, whatever series. I do know that I want to read the second book as soon as possible. I think I'm gonna put it on my July or August TBR. We'll see, because you know the normal paperback isn't out yet. It's either hardcover or like those very big paperbacks. So we're gonna wait. But in this book you follow Vivienne, and her parents are rebels. They are somewhere at war with dragons. You have like 3 classes. You have the lower class, the middle class, and then the high class. And the high class are like the rich people, and then you go down the poorer you go. But I will say, from like the beginning on, like it starts off with such a good beginning scene. Like for the first chapter, I was like, oh, she is who she thinks she is. And then someone from their government goes to her because she end up getting caught, basically. And this person is like, either way, you're going to come with me, and then we're gonna, talk about it. Or you're going to this school, you're gonna learn about dragons. You're gonna do this, and if you go do this successfully, we will free your parents, because her parents are rebels and they are also, imprisoned. So she's like, okay, fine, but I want my cousin with me. So they both go to this sort of a school-ish, it's not really academy, but it's like everyone who needs to work on this particular side quest is there. And I really liked it. It is a YA book, and going into this, I didn't know if it was YA or not. And then I talked to someone, and she was like, I think it's YA. And I'm reading it, it made sense it was YA, but I want to say it's not like 12-year-old YA stuff. It's more like 16, 17, 18. Me, a 21-year-old, I enjoyed this book. So, I think it's not like YA in a sense, romantic wise. There's no smut, there's no spice, but with the themes handled in this book, I would say it's more like a new adult book, but make it no spice. And it was so refreshing to see that there was no spice. Sometimes I miss books, I miss fantasies where spice is not the main thing, not a romantasy. Okay, then we have a 180 on things like genre-wise. I read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I love this. I love this book. I convinced my boyfriend that if it is out on Prime to watch. If you have a Prime subscription, I was like, we're gonna watch it. I want to watch the movie now. And he's like, yeah, sure. He doesn't know what the book is about. He doesn't care. But I love this. I now know what everybody was like. You need to read it. You need to watch it. I get it. But I also heard the movie was a bit less good. But very excited. I ended up rating it 4 stars. The plot twist I didn't see coming. I think I read so far now. I read Neverlie by Freida McFadden, The Intruder, and The Housemaid. I do want to read more, but I'm just scared of books. I don't know what it is, but every time I'm in a bookstore, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna pick it up, and then I don't end up bringing it home with me. But I'm very excited to read the Divorce. Also, that came out this month. I don't know when, but I am intrigued. So, The Housemaid, 4 stars. You follow Millie, and she is she just came out of prison. She's looking for a job. She's looking for, you know, a place to work. So she goes to this house, and she goes to work with, you know, for Nina. And Nina, she is a little bit crazy. Or is she? No. And basically things happen in the house. I don't want to say too much, but I just want to say, if you haven't read it, please read it. I did end up picking this book up because I got it on Vinted for like €4. So I was like, that's a bargain. So I read that, loved it. Then I read Shadow Princess, which is the Zodiac Academy, the 4th part. I give it 2 stars, and I think 2 stars is even too high for this book. I didn't like it. I'm not gonna go too deep into it, but for the thickness of this book, and I think I said it about the 3rd part as well, is I missed something to keep me hooked. Obviously, I read it, and I read it in a day, and I will say you how I did that. But I don't know. I just needed, if I didn't read this on my iPad and I read it through Kindle, I think I would have DNF'd. You know, on my iPad. I think it was like 400 pages. And I was like, okay, sure, I can struggle through 400 pages. I can. Should I have done that? No. I should have DNF'd, but I couldn't. I don't know. I was intrigued to see where it would end. And that was the same with the order, or part 3. Is where I was intrigued to see how it would end, but I was not intrigued enough to keep me in the story. If that makes sense. Like the characters, no. The only good thing about the characters was one of the professors, Arian. Only good part. And the end, honestly, it just ended on a cliffhanger, just because then you would want to read part 5. But I know how fake this book gets, and I can't see myself doing that. On a higher note, I also read The Housemaid's Secret. This follows, I want to say, directly after The Housemaid. You follow Millie, you follow almost the same characters as she did in book 1, but then in a different household. She goes to a different household to, you know, be a maid there. And basically she gets recommended by her old job giver to say, like, you need Millie. Whatever you need Millie. Did I see the ending happening? No. No. I really liked it. 4 stars too. I don't want to say too much because I don't think I'm scared to spoil anything, but it was so good. Really enjoyed it. Okay, then I have Terror at the Gates by Scarlett Sinclair. I love the cover, and I think I will keep the book forever because of the cover. I ended up giving it 3 stars. The writing was fun. The writing was okay. It really kept me in the book. But I think it is marketed wrong. People were saying like, oh, she's such a badass female character. Female rage. you know, strong independent woman, and then she needs help with every single task she needs to do. Like, the main male character had to step in almost any scene where she was like, I'm gonna do it myself, and then he stepped in and she needed his help. So that was a little bit of like, I don't feel the female rage, the independence. I didn't feel it. But overall the story was fun, and I would say I wanted to pick up the second book to see if it's any better. But so far it was fun. In this book you follow Lilith, and she's estranged from her family, and I don't know how to explain this world, but basically there are gods. I don't want to say it's, you know, I think it's not really Greek mythology, but more Christianism. You know, there's God, there's Lilith, there's, you know, everything like that. But basically it's hidden in the real world. Just like her other series did with like A Touch of Darkness. It was also Greek mythology, but hidden in like the real world. And I really like that aspect of it. That's all I really liked, is that it was like, it could possibly be true. You know, it could happen. We don't know, but there's like this mafia going on. I think that's the best way to explain it, is there's like a mafia, and she got this blade and she steals from like the church, and the blade is from the church, and you know, it does all these crazy things. It kills people, whatever. She goes on this hunt to see what this blade is, basically, and I was like, okay, fun. Murderous blade. But like I said, it was fun, and I want to see how it continues, because it kind of ends on a cliffhanger, but I don't think I will be remembering this book by the end of the month, because I already feel my memory slipping off this book. Yeah, it was fun, but nothing too special. Then I read Sinners Condemned, which is the second book in the Sinners Anonymous series. I want to say I know who we follow, but I don't. We follow Benny and what's his name? Why doesn't his name pop up? I think it's Rafe, something like that. Raphael? I think it's Raphael. And Raphael, he is like the owner of this casino, big on the road stuff. And Penelope, she goes to the place where they belong, because I think stuff happened where she was previously staying at, and then she meets Rafe, whatever, and you know, she gets to work for him, and tension is high, which is fun. I really liked it. It was a good book to read in between. But I don't want to say it was like too special. Like, honestly, I don't recall a lot about the book right now. You know, and if I really like a book, I will remember it. But I do want to say I also read Sinners Condemned, which is the second continuation of like their story, which is the third part of the Sinners Anonymous series. I do think these two books could have been one, with some scenes cut out, and then, you know, maybe like a 500-page book would have made sense, you know, if there was like enough tension to keep you hooked. Because this book was not even 300 pages. You know, for a continuation, I don't know, I would have wanted something more than, you know, a thin book about the same characters. I don't know, I missed their connection in the book, and something, like I said, to keep me really hooked on the story. That's what I missed, and I'm sad about that, because I was really excited, but I don't read Sinners Atone soon as well. I don't know what soon is, might be July. I do want to read it like soon-ish. No, not maybe this month or next month. Depends on how my TBR falls. Then I read The Housemaid is Watching by Frida McFadden too. 4.5 stars. Everyone who says this book is lesser than the other two books, you see that door? Walk right out. No, I really enjoyed it. People would have said you need to read The Housemaid's Wedding, which is I think a novella in between. So it made sense, and I would say why it made sense. I think then it would make sense why they were in the beginning of the book where they were, and where the kids came from. I didn't read the novella. I didn't feel like it, so I didn't. But I got the story just fine. That's what I'm gonna say. That's what I wanted to say. So I rated it 4.5 stars. It's my favorite out of the trilogy. I really liked it. I don't know. It was so intriguing to read. I don't know. And I'm sad that it's over now. But Frida McFadden, you're somewhere on my auto-buy offer maybe? I don't know. Like I said, I'm really debating sometimes about reading her books. But that being said, I really like it. I really recommend this trilogy. There are also, all 3 of the books were super fast paced. So that's fun. Then I read Half a Season by Brynne Weaver, which is a new release that came out last week. And I really enjoyed it. It was fine. You follow, what's her name? Harper and Nolan. I didn't read too much into this book before going into it, so you follow the same characters as Tour Season, and I think the whole trilogy is going to be their story, because there's also Ansel cliffhanger, and you follow their story, and I hope more will be revealed in that book, because this book, I don't know, there were some things I was like, oh my god, yes, exciting, and then some parts I was like, I don't know if I'm feeling it, but I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was a fun book. It was a very bingeable book. I also listened to some parts of the audiobook, which were fun too. But if it was gonna be more than a 3 or 4 book series, I don't know if I will be or would have wanted to keep on continuing. You know? I don't know. It was fun, but there was nothing keeping me hooked in the book. Yeah. And I want to say, it's marketed as a dark romance, and I do get why it's a dark romance. But it's not specifically because of, like, what happens, like, spice-wise. It's more like, they're both serial killers. So that's why it's more like a dark romance, instead of, like, very spicy, smutty scenes. Then we're going on to the last 2 books that I've read so far. Are you tired of me yet? Because I'm tired of myself. Then I read Carissa Brockman's The Songbird and the Heart of Stone, which is the 3rd part in the Crimes of Nyaxia series. It follows two different people from the first 2 books, because there are gonna be 6 parts, and it's split into like 3 duologies. So this is part 1 of a second duology, and I really liked it. I want to say I felt more female rage in this book than in Terror at the Gates. No, but all jokes aside, I was very, very intrigued in this book. And honestly, I read this in a day. It was super addicting, and I cannot wait to read the 4th part. But I think I'm gonna wait until reading the 4th part until it comes out in like this paperback, because this is the UK one, and I think the only thing available now is the US edition. So I'm not feeling it, you know. I will be waiting until I can put it on my physical TBR, but I really like Nish and Azar. They were really... Okay, I had a brief interruption, so if something is off camera angle wise, I'm sorry. But I am at the last book that I read so far, which is The Sunday Garden by Ashley Boston. I found this book last week out early in the bookstore. I was like, I'm gonna read it before release, so that my review can be up on release day. So I was like thinking, you know, a week early in the store. That's insane. But I want to say that someone found Game On for me also 3 weeks early in store. So I don't know what that says about stores and publication dates, but you should check them out. I don't know, I feel like with these big offers, you should be on point, you know. I could have leaked the whole book if I wanted to, but I didn't. But I ended up giving this 3 stars, and for someone, I don't know, I was really excited to see this book, and you know, I've read, I think, most of her books that I know, or all of them, and I really enjoyed them. However, I didn't feel a connection with the characters as much as I would have wanted to, which also made that the story didn't connect and hit as I think it would have if I was in the same position as our female main character, because she's grieving the loss of her best friend, and they had this pact that 10 years later they were going to go to this place and they're going to meet there. Whatever happens 10 years later, we're going to be there, you know. So the best friend ends up dying and she ends up grieving, and for some reason she gets sent to this place to work at. She's a gardener, and when she starts working there, there's a door that leads to another garden, and that's where she meets Russ, and Russ is stuck there. She just had to find a way to get Russ out of that garden. So that was a very intriguing part, and I do think that the end where she gets to terms with her grieving was well written. I do think the book was well written. It's just a me problem that I didn't connect with the characters, which made it a 3 stars. But I think that if you would connect with these characters, I would think it would hit twice as hard as it did with me. And yeah, I don't know, I really liked it. I enjoyed it. It was pretty bingeable, but it didn't hook me. That's what I want to say. There was not a single, I don't want to say that, but there was not a lot keeping me wanting to keep on reading. Sometimes I was counting down the pages like, oh, I've got 100 pages left or so. You know, that was the feeling I got from this book, and that's not a feeling I want to get with a book. But The Sunday Garden by Ashley Poston, 3 stars. And I'm very happy that I have my hands on this stunning edition. Like, I think there are different spread edges. I don't know, but I really like this one. But these were all the books I read so far in this month. And I will see you towards the end of the month when I have my finished thoughts on all the other books that I'm reading. I'm currently reading Catabases by Arif Kwan. You know, I'm reading this book now. I am 50% in-ish. So far it's okay. Nothing too bad. If you hear a child screaming, that's my little brother. Just the more you know. But yeah, I'm gonna go now. And I'll see you at the end of the month. Like I mentioned, I was gonna be back at the end of the month with the entire wrap-up with the second part of June. Here it is. I read a couple of books still. Mostly I read through Kindle. Because some of these are not like out yet. In the paperback that I want. Or yeah, basically like that. So I read them through Kindle. Instead of, you know, buying something that I wasn't planning on keeping. So let's get started. Like I mentioned, I was reading Catabases. I finished it. I rated it 4 stars. But I was a bit confused about the when and when of the when and where, because I was really debating on my final rating of the book. I don't know, I was really debating between a 3, a 3.5 or a 4. But I ended up giving it 4 stars because I think that the idea of the book was very intriguing, about like going to hell and bringing someone back, and you know, dark magic and the whole system. And I really like that if you read Babel, you know that a lot of around Babel is based on the translation of some of the words and then the translation in other languages to the same word, so it means the same but in a different language. That was like mentioned as well in like the In Together Basis as well, and I really liked it, so I ended up giving it 4 stars. I don't know, I really liked the book. Was it the best book ever written? No, probably not, but I enjoyed myself. The only thing that was like the debating point was, I don't know, I didn't feel the characters. Like there was some sort of love story inside the book and I was like, no, I'm not okay with this. So, you know, that was like the only misplaced thing inside the book, which was like not pulling me into it. But hey, it was a fine read. Then I did a reread of a series, and that is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Yeah, I'm not going to dive in too deep into these books because I will be having a reading vlog out later in July. It is already filmed, it's already set up. So keep your eyes closed, and if you don't want to miss it, subscribe. But I have a 45-minute long reading vlog about these 3 books. So I enjoyed them, but if you want to know more of my opinions, check that out. So yeah, I read them, I reread them, and I was obsessed, to say the least. Then I read Black Knight by Rina Kent, which is Kimberly and Xander's story, and I give it, let me look, 3.5 stars. It was a fine read. I liked Kimberly and I think her struggles were portrayed really good. I didn't like Xander. He didn't do it for me, but I did really like Kimberly, and I read mostly this book because I wanted to continue in the series, because that was part 4 of like the first generation books she has. So after this comes Legacy of Gods, like timeline wise, I don't know, but I read Legacy of Gods and I was like, I want to go back to where it started. So now I'm reading Royal Lead, I think that series is called. I don't know, it was fun, and I'm happy they got 1 book because the first 3 books are all about one couple. And I was like, okay, we can get this in a duology. It wasn't supposed to, you know, I'm rambling about another book, which I have not read this month. But things were resolved in this book, and I think it is important to read because you get a lot of answers and a lot of information and a lot of background, and a different point of view and different things that they have to handle with. So in that sense, it was a good book. But I mostly just continued on because I wanted to read the next 3 books, basically. So yeah, then I read, believe it or not, The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I ended up rating this 3.5 stars. And I don't know, it just didn't hit as much as I wanted to, if that makes sense. But I'm also making a reading vlog out of this, but this reading vlog will probably be, I think, in August or September, because I have not read the 2nd book yet. So, and I have a timeline in my head that I want to read the 2nd book in July and then the 3rd book in August. So depending on where I read the 3rd book in August, maybe it will be out in August, the reading vlog, or it will be out in September. So keep your eyes closed for that too. But I'm going way deeper into my thoughts and feelings than I'm doing now, just because I already talked about it and I don't want to spoil too much of what I thought. But a 3.5 stars. I'm highly excited to read The Two Towers. But I don't know, I'm thinking in the beginning of July, because now The Lord of the Rings is still, or The Fellowship of the Ring is still fresh in my memory. We'll see when I pick it up. Then I read The Sinners Atone, which is the 4th part in the Sinners Anonymous series, by Sierra, no that's not, by, I want to say her name, but I don't know. It will be up here on screen somewhere. It's the 4th book, and so far it's the final book. They are saying there is going to be a 5th book. I don't know about that, but it was a fun dark romance to read. I don't know, I was reading a lot of fantasies this month, and I was like, I need something else. And for me, something else of like fantasies is either a romance or a dark romance. And I don't know, I was like, I want to finish Sinister Dawn, or the Sinister Dawn series in like its whole. And I don't know, I saw Sinister Dawn and I was like, oh, I can read that. And I really liked it. Like I said, a 3.5 stars. I wouldn't know too much about the book anymore. I will not lie. Hence, it is also a 3.5 stars. I kind of forgot, but I know I liked it. But I just forgot the names of the characters. And I'm a bit too lazy to look them up. Okay, I went into Goodreads to look for their names. What are their no names? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even own a physical copy because a friend of mine, she went to Scotland and she went to the works, got these books, but I haven't seen her yet. We just haven't had the opportunity yet to meet. So I'm waiting. Yeah. But, you know, it was a fun book. And I really liked it. And I think if there's gonna be a part 5 in this series, it's gonna be about them. Because this book ended on a cliffhanger. But I don't know if a book 5 will ever be announced or ever be, you know, published. I don't know. But anyway, I read A War of Wyverns too by S.F. Williamson, which is the second part to Language of Dragons. I don't know, I really liked Language of Dragons when I read it this month. And then I was like, yeah, I finished my TBR and didn't know what to read anymore. I was like, why not just not pick it up? And I did, and I really liked it. I giving it 3.5 stars. Mainly because I think the first book just had a little bit more that intrigued me and had me in than A War of Wyverns did. But it was still like action packed and plot was twisting and everything like that. So it wasn't a bad book. It was just, I don't know, compared to the first part. The first part was way better. I don't know, but I really like seeing the characters grow. And, you know, thinking and, you know, obviously they're like 18 years old. And, obviously they never felt betrayed or they never felt certain emotions. And now everything is happening in the book. And they have to deal with also certain emotions they haven't dealt with before. I thought it was very strong. And the third and final part is coming out in January or February 2027. Sign me up. Sign me up to read that book. I will read it. I was like debating on, is it going to be a trilogy? Is it going to be series? Is it going to be duology? It's going to be trilogy. So I'm very happy about that. Then I read Vicious Prince by Rina Kent, which is part 5 in the Royal Lee series. It was fun. It was a 3 stars. It wasn't anything special. Like, I know I read this book, but I may or may not have forgotten a lot about the book. I want to say I know who the characters were, but I don't. Was it Dante? I think the man was called Dante. Dante. Anyway, Ronan and Teal. Ronan. That's true, because Ronan's name was Ronan, but his nickname was Ron. For the people that don't know, my boyfriend is called Ron. So every time I was like, what are you doing in this book? But all jokes aside, it was a 3 stars. It was fun. Like I said, these books are just information and their story. And how much can you do in a book that has 300 pages? Like, I don't know. I'm on part 5, so I don't want to DNF. I have like part 6 and then the epilogue left. But I have seen that part 6 is pretty thick. in comparison to the other parts. So I'm having high hopes that part 6 will be better. But Ronan and Teal, they were a fun couple, and Teal has a lot of issues and a lot of struggles, and they were well portrayed. I like the way Rina Kent portrays her characters inside her books. Nothing to add. You know, if there is a problem or an disorder or mental health disorder, it is portrayed like hell. Like, it is so good. And then the women are so great, and, you know, have all these issues, and then they have the men doing absolutely nothing, you know. Yeah, I don't know. But the woman that Rina Kent writes, I do like them. I do. Then I read a book that I do own physically, which is The Divorce by Frida McFadden. This is the newest release, and I think it came out in June or March or April. Like, I want to go in her backlist, but this woman has so many books. So many books. Like, no, I can't find when it was published exactly, but this book, twisty and everything, and honestly, I've read 5 or 6 books now so far by Frida McFadden. This woman gets me every single time. I will not lie. Like, I was like, oh my god. You know, you follow 2 people, Naomi and Jeremy, and they are getting a divorce because Jeremy just doesn't feel it anymore. And then there's a second woman, you know, that Jeremy has met, and, you know, obviously that's the reason why they're getting the divorce, and Jeremy thinks his wife is insane and not well in the head, and, you know, you follow that divorce and that story, but you also follow their custody battle over their son. But something happens with this couple or throuple, you know, that the dynamic is switching, and I really liked it. And that's all I'm gonna say, because I'm gonna say too much. It was on the tip of my tongue that I wanted to say something. I was like, no girl, don't, you're gonna spoil the book. And the last book I read was a book that I finished yesterday, which is Forsaken Midnight by Emily McIntyre. I don't know if you heard someone scream last week, but I got approved for the ARC 2 times. 1 time through Emily's own team, which that ARC will be coming in my inbox today as I'm filming it. And then legally approved. I think last Tuesday or Thursday or Friday. I was reading a different book, and I was like, I can't read 2 books at the same time. But when I have time, I will read it, and I finished it yesterday. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was amazing. It was amazing. I don't know. Emily has this sort of way of writing that always gets me. I don't know what it is. I don't know what she puts into it, but I'm here for it. I am definitely here for it. Yeah, I don't want to say too much, in case, you know, obviously it's coming out on the 16th of July or the 14th of July, and if you have read any other book by Emily and you want to get, and you have read, what is it, Burning Daylight, which is the first part of the series, and you don't know if you want to continue, do it. I want to say that the first 60% was so great, and I was like having the 5-star feeling, and, you know, the 2 main characters were growing towards each other. You know, it's a little bit of a secret relationship. I don't want to say cheating trope, but she is in a relationship with somebody else, and his best friend has done something for her, and then things happen which the best friend has to take care of her. You know, things get unraveled pretty freaking quickly. Then she get married, proposed to by her boyfriend, and all the things happen. Action packed. I was enjoying myself. If this sounds intriguing, please pick it up. I do want to say, I think you have to read Burning Daylight before reading Forsaken Midnight, because how does it say, at the end of Burning Daylight, something happened and a mystery is resolved, which I think is in this book too. So if you don't want to get spoiled, read it in order. I think that was how it was done, or warned, or whatever. I don't really know how to explain because I didn't look into it, because I read Burning Midnight or Burning Daylight and then now Forsaken Midnight. I keep messing up the names. I am very sorry. But that was the last book I read in June. That's the end of the wrap up. It was a long one and I'm sorry. But that's my wrap up. They are long. And I'm yapping. But I want to say that if you liked this video, please leave a like. If you want to know more and you want to follow me along in this journey of reading, subscribe, because there are fun videos coming this month and later the year. If you let me know your favorite book of June, and I will catch you in the next video. Goodbye.